Okay, I think we have quite a few people on the call now, so we'll get started. Good morning, everybody. This meeting and the presentation is to run through our approach to the operational readiness testing. That document went out for consultation last week, and this is just picking up the highlights of that documentation just to sort of help you guide through it and our approach to the testing. Can I have the first slide, Andrew, please? First slide is going around the objectives. So the reason why we are actually doing operational readiness testing. So the first objective is that we're confirming the cross-party service desk interactions. Now, this meeting is just to cover the testing side. I know there is a lot of work and a lot of discussions and agreement that need to be made on the cross-party service desk piece, and we have a further meeting this afternoon. But this is taking that is all sort of agreed, and we've mapped that out, and this is the actual testing of it. It's also so we can provide additional assurance to our service management to make sure everyone's comfortable that it's fit for M10 readiness. We had sit testing in February. We had, I think there were 5 SEV2 defects, if I remember rightly, there that need to be retested. And that would include, there were some defects around raising change and knowledge management. So those will be retested in this ORT phase. Also, if there's any uplifts to the operations manual while we're going through the readiness phase, to get ready for M10. Best example I could use there is in previous releases, we've got sort of resolver groups that are mapped there that they might slightly change, or additional resolver groups might be added to that operations manual. So that would need to be tested as part of this phase as well. So any uplifts to the operations manual we'll cover in the test cases. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, great. Just move to the next slide, please. This is a visual flow of the the approach that we're trying to do for ORT. So, as I mentioned previously, the test approach has been sent out in consultation for your review, which includes details about the entry and exit criteria, tooling, and the objectives. Also, as part of that approach, we have in the appendix created high-level scenarios. Now, just to I'll answer the question in a second. Just to cover these are high-level scenarios. I think there's about 8, and the approach is we'll take the scenario, and then we'll have the test cases and test scripts that will be addressing that individual scenario. So you'll have one scenario, and you will have sort of multiple test cases underneath that scenario to address it. And then the final approach is we run through the test scripts, and then we do that in the operational readiness testing, and then we'll further detail how we're going to capture the evidence and what our defect criteria is. Sorry, was there a question in the chat, Andrew? I just saw something ping up.
No, there's nothing in the chat.
Oh, sorry. Okay, is there any questions on that approach? Is everybody comfortable with that? Okay, great. Next slide, please. So this slide is just addressing key information now. At the time of writing, the consultation period was the 7th to the 22nd of April. But I know there will be an extension on that after feedback last week. In terms of the scripts, we aim to get those out and shared for review by the end of this month. And at the moment, we're still tracking to start the ORT on the 2nd of June. Due to the extension of consultation, that we're just looking at our planning just to make sure that we can actually hit that 2nd of June. Not sure if that may be delayed by a week. We don't know yet, but we are going to try our hardest to actually keep to that testing phase of the 2nd of June, and the testing will be for 4 weeks. What we've done in terms of planning our ORT lessons learned, we've give ourselves a month because we have a bit of contingency there just in case ORT does actually start a little later, but it gives us plenty of time if there are things that we need to learn or things that we need to change during the month of July to actually do that. So it's sort of well ahead of the September date. In terms of test environment, we took the decision, we did sit testing predominantly in our live ServiceNow production with some in a test environment. The approach we're going to take is we will do this testing in our live ServiceNow production because it gives us that full view and it's a proper testing of sort of our operational capability and that end-to-end testing. What we'll do, we'll configure the production environment so every test case, if it's flagged with ORT, it would go into its separate sort of queue so it doesn't get mixed up with any BAU test cases. Any defects we'll use as all DevOps for any defect login, and participants, it's there in terms of program participants, Alexon teams and the MHHS program team. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, great. Next slide, please. We will share this pack after the call as well. So this is detailed in the Operation Readiness Testing Approach document that went for consultation, and it just reviews what we are looking to be in scope and out of scope and the reasonings of why it's in scope and out of scope. So in terms of in scope, it's the incident handling across the different service desks and participants, which is sort of the important piece here that we need to test. We'll also test problem management because that wasn't covered in the SIT testing. As mentioned before, we will retest all the SIT defects and again, the uplift to the operations manual. Out of scope, our DR BCP for ServiceNow because that we just implemented all our modules a few weeks ago and that has gone through DR and BCP testing. Change and release, that was covered as part of SIT testing as well. Pen and security, again, was covered as part of our ServiceNow release. And we will not be retesting any past SIT tests. Does anybody have any questions on that?
There's a question from Chris from Wolverine.
Yeah, of course.
Hiya. Yeah, just a quick one. In the scope, I couldn't really find this specifically, but is the testing limited to SIT participants or is there a wider test scope from that from a participant point of view?
It will be wider. So the last slide, we're just looking for volunteers. It will not just be for SIT participants. It's anybody who would like to volunteer to be part of the operational readiness testing. We have a form at the end of this and we're sharing the link in Torwig as well for people to actually sign up to actually be part of this ORT testing.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I saw another hand, was it Keith?
Yeah, hiya. I appreciate what you're saying about not redoing past SIT tests. And obviously we've not seen necessarily the scope of the tests you're talking about doing, but we will need to have some in there that are similar to the tests we did in terms of being able to have tickets logged within your service now from a DIP perspective, because we didn't and still haven't got the ways of working defined. So the way we were doing things before in the SIT testing were agreed at the time, and that they wouldn't be the final process, and we're still in the same position. So we need to make sure that there are DIP related tests in here, even if they're not the same as the ones that we did previously.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, Keith. And the way we're looking at sort of the testing, we'll take not only DIP, but each individual product. So although it won't be a repeat of the SIT testing, there will be testing on those products as well in terms of incidents. Thank you. Any further questions?
Yes, Ian. Here. So can you please go to slide number 2 if possible? Because in slide number 2 you have said that in the month of February we have performed SIT Ops 3 batch 1, right? So in that failure, whatever the failed cases we need to do here. Please let me know if I have told correct.
So did you say go slide 2? So yes, we
Yeah.
sorry, we will be
Yes.
retesting the defects in SIT. Definitely, yes, that is part of our ORT.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
So we have one few requests. We have few defects. Okay, in service management. So that is the only thing I would like to check. So that will be the part of this testing. Correct? Right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, shall we move to the next slide? So this gives an overview, and it's further detailed in the approach document on the governance structure and the meeting cadence during for the ORT. So in terms of meeting cadence, as it ran with SIT, and I think SIT ran, it was a good approach to have. We'll have daily stand-ups with anybody that's participating in the ORT. We'll also have weekly progress updates, but also we will issue a report after every daily stand-up as well, just to make sure everyone's aware of sort of the landscape of the testing and how it's going. And in terms of, we would have ad hoc defect triage calls for any high SEV issues that need to be resolved, and defect reassignment, just to make sure they are done sort of immediately and not issued or addressed at the end of the testing phase. So if there is a SEV2 that's raised, say on day 2, then on day 2 we'll have a triage call to try and address that and what the problem is and how that can be fixed. Does anybody have any questions on that? Great, thanks. Go to the next slide, Andrew, please. So this slide, it's the entry criteria for us to go into ORT testing. So in terms of, we need our ServiceNow routing and escalation workflows done. Azure DevOps needs to be fully set up, and access needs to be done for anybody that's participating in the testing. And we need to address if any training needs to be done in terms of both ServiceNow and for the portal or for ADO. So that needs to be done. All the test scripts and scenarios need to be reviewed and agreed, and all the governance needs to be in place before we enter into ORT testing. All the key meetings need to be set up, resources need to be aligned, and what we will make sure that we will go through and address that if any training is needed in terms of any sort of tooling or approach or around the test scripts needs to be done before we enter into ORT testing. And again, all the test scripts will be uploaded into ADO as well. Does anybody have any questions on the entry criteria?
Ian, is it worth just noting that this is a Helix instance of ADO and not the program ADO? Is it worth just sort of being clear on that?
Yeah, that's a good point. So yes, we will be using the Helix ADO for this phase of testing, where previously it was the MHHS ADO for SIT testing.
So there may be, this set of preparatory activity that Ian is setting out here may have some differences from what you've experienced previously in being set up for the program ADO instance, and obviously that'll require all the necessary support. But I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions on this one? Great stuff. Next slide, please, Andrew. So here's our exit criteria. Again, I'm going to say this a lot this meeting. This is detailed in the approach document we sent out for consultation, but it pretty much aligns on the exit criteria that we were following for SIT testing as well, in terms of SEV1, no SEV1 or SEV2 defects. and sort of gives you the criteria on SEV 3 and SEV 4 and defines what evidence and assurance needs to be done here. And then we will issue at the end of testing a test completion report. Okay, next slide, Andrew, please. This again, it's in the consultation document, but it defines the criteria impacts that we will be using to approach the severity of any defects raised. So from P1, P2, P3, and P4. P4 mainly will be cosmetic issues or questions with the actual process that we need to document, or documentation gaps in the operations manual. And then P3 in terms of it be non-critical issues, defects, reporting errors, or if there's any automation failures. And when we say automation failures, things like workflows in ServiceNow aren't being routed correctly and things like that. And then, as I mentioned before, P1, P2, those are the critical and high defects that we would address immediately via ad hoc defect calls if any of those are raised during the testing phase. Next slide, please, Andrew. So these are the test scenarios. They are as part of an appendix in the approach documents. Now, as I mentioned before, these are high-level scenarios. These are the scenarios that we will base the test cases and test scripts on. So take, for example, the cross-party incident escalation. That's not just what that we will have several test cases, and as Keith mentioned before, we will be having test cases that will address the different products as well. The important one, but there'll be the other products like DAH and things like that, and the impact of that will have different scripts addressing each one. So each script will address each scenario, and this is a list of the scenarios that we are working from at the moment. Again, it's in the consultation document, and if there's any feedback, if you feel that there needs to be more scenarios or they don't quite hit the mark, if you can just provide feedback on the consultation document and we can have a look at that. But I think that pretty much would cover from a high level what we're going to be basing the test scripts on. Does address the cross-party incident escalation. There's a scenario so we can start looking at the parent and child accounts, because we're working through that at the moment, and that would definitely need to be tested as well. And it's things like 100% we need to retest the SIT batch 2 P2 defects to make sure that we can get those passed as well, and that the defects have been fixed beforehand.
There's a question, Ian, from Prashant from Centric in the chat, just asking, would we test the business continuity plans as part of ORT?
I'll take that way. I don't think there is intention to actually test that as part of ORT, but let me check if that needs to be looked at. Thank you. Any questions on the scenarios? Again, like I say, if there's something, if you feedback during the consultation and we can have a look at them, but I think this covers as high level as we can get so we can start basing the test scripts on each scenario. Brilliant, thank you. I think it's final slide, isn't it, Andrew? So this is the link for the form that we've put together for any ORT volunteers. Like I say, this is open to anybody who wishes to participate as part of this testing. We'll share this pack out at the end of this call. Also, we do have a sliding tour rig that has this form as well. So if you wish to volunteer to be part of ORT, that'd be great. If you just fill in the form, it's a simple form. It's name, contact details, and email address, and so we know who will be able to assist us in running ORT. That'd be fantastic. Does anybody have any questions on that, or any questions at all in terms of the testing? Joanna, hi.
Hello, just so I can check my understanding. So by volunteering, we're opting in, and if we didn't volunteer, we wouldn't be involved in this testing at all. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, is that right, Ian? Surely that you may want to include all of the participants who you want cross-party service desk interactions with.
Yes, that's
Just before you
you
get off the hook on that one, Joe. I think not all parties are going to be equal in this one, because we are going to need to exercise the cross-party help desk processes across central parties.
Thank you, Jason.
But I don't think we would not volunteer, even if
I realise that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a good point. Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions, Chris?
Yeah, if you don't volunteer for this process, are you aware, or have you been thinking about whether there'll be anything else after this process? What I'm thinking about is there's various qualification waves where people will need to understand how the operational processes for service management work, and is there any thought about any additional testing or training later down the line, just because we're going to roll out in phases, aren't we? So just wondering whether you've thought about
that. I think our intention is there would not be any additional testing, but it's a very valid point in any additional training as the phases roll out. And I think if there is a need for any additional testing, we'll have to make that call as we're going through the phases.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, maybe one to consider, just because the amount of people and the wave structure of the rollout might mean that there are some people who aren't involved in operational testing that might need that understanding of how it works.
Okay, it's a good point, and we'll log that so we can bear that in mind, Jess. Did I see another hand go up?
Yeah, hi, me here. So we were the part of SIT ops testing, okay, batch 1 testing, theme 3 batch 1 testing. So in that, one of the tests got failed. So right, so we need to compulsory that we need to take this register here, so that then only we will be able to retest our testing, correct?
Yes, but I think Jason made a good point. So if there's any retest, we would reach out to you anyway. You wouldn't be missed if you hadn't put the form in. It's a good point. So any retest, the people that need to retest, we will reach out directly anyway.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Can I just ask quickly, so that the putting the tests into ADO, so for any volunteers, are we going to be running all of the tests, or are we going to run some of the tests? Because I also saw mention of a test completion report. I'm just wondering if that's an overall, or whether each individual volunteer of this testing needs to complete a test completion report.
It would be some of the testing. We wouldn't expect one sort of volunteer to run all of the test scripts. It'll be targeted, so at sort of where it would impact you. So say, for example, you volunteer, you might have to run 1 or 2 tests. You wouldn't need to run the suite of tests.
Okay. So you would need a test completion report from each individual.
Oh no, we will issue the overall test completion report, but obviously that would be with the input of everybody who's been part of testing.
Yeah.
And then we would want your agreement to make sure you agree with that report before we issue it.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thanks.
Sorry, I saw another hand.
Hi, Anup here. A quick question. Do you need any kind of minimum number of participants to volunteer so that you can complete this phase, or is it absolutely optional?
Again, and I think goes back to the Jason's point. We haven't really thought how many ORT volunteers, but I think I would assume that the people that are impacted by this would want to volunteer to test it. And again, there'll be that element. So we'll reach out to the people that we need to do the SIT retesting as well, and anybody that's impacted in sort of the cross-party service desk as well. So that's the approach that we will take. So we don't actually have a number. Say if we have 10 people, then we haven't got a sort of a max or minimum number. Whoever wants to volunteer.
The reason for that question, Ian, is it tagged to the qualification activities? That's what I was just checking on that aspect.
I don't think it is, but let me take that as an action to make sure.
Sure, thanks.
Did I see another hand or question?
Ian, you mentioned an approach document. Sorry, I was on holiday on Friday. Is this the LDSO cross-party service desk model approach document?
No, as part of the consultation, I think there were 5 documents. One was the cross-party service desk approach, but another document was the ORT approach as well.
Okay,
we can forward it to you if you haven't got that yet.
Can I?
I expect it's hidden away in a bunch of other emails, but I would appreciate if someone can send it to me.
I've just put a link in the chat.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you.
No, understand when you come back from leave the thousands of emails you get. No problem at all.
Yeah.
So, Ian, I just wanted to jump in there as well. Just be crystal clear. There was 3 consultation documents, which was the cross-party service desk model, the operational readiness test approach, and service management operating hours. There was 2 other documents which were just for information. So just to be clear, there's 3 consulted documents.
Thank you.
Thanks, Royston. Great. Any more questions? Again, if you think of anything after this call is dropped, feel free to reach out to Andrew and I or put it for the consultation document, but feel free to reach out to us at any time if you think of anything else. That's not a problem at all. Great stuff. I think, oh, no.
Apologies, I have just typed in my question in the chat. It was not picked up, so I was thinking, do we have a single page where we can see what kind of testing has happened in SIT ops as well as ORT? Because both of them cover similar aspects, but it would be handy to see both of them together side by side to see what is covered, what is not covered, and then if there is anything that is overlapping and how would it help and kind of things.
So in terms of our test case and scripts, they'll be released at the end of the month, but we would be able to share with you, and we'll take it as an action, Andrew, to share what was tested during SIT, and you can map it to our high-level scenarios, and then you can maybe keep that until we actually issue the test cases and scripts, if that's okay, but we can send that to you, no problem.
Thank you.
I've put a link to all the SIT operational material in the chat as well, Prashant.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Is there any more questions? Okay, I'll take the silences. That's it. So it's great stuff. We'll get some time back. So thank you, everybody, for joining today. And again, if there's anything you think of after this call, please feel free to reach out to us and we can answer any questions there, or any sort of queries or information that you need, please do reach out to us. But apart from that, thank you for your time. Hope you all have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.